Hello everyone. Hi. Good afternoon. Hi everyone. Okay. So welcome to our 20dB Facebook live session for today. So I can see the viewers number is increasing right now. So maybe we can wait for a bit more for others to join us for today's live session. For those who are already joined us, can you hear my voice? Is it my voice clear? Is it my voice clear? Can you hear me? Hi everyone, good afternoon. Oh, Tiffany, thank you. Can hear my voice clear. Good. Okay, great. So for today, before I start, may I introduce myself first? My name is Nasrien. I'm a clinical audiologist from 20dB Hearing SS2PJ. So for today, actually, for our live session, we have a mystery gift to give out to those who watching us right now. So don't forget to follow, like, share, and also share this live session. And also don't forget to screenshot it, and you can inbox our 20dB page, and our customer care will contact you to send out the mystery gift if you are selected. Okay? So hurry up, screenshot this live session and also share it in your Facebook page, Facebook account to win the mystery gift. Okay, so for today, actually, for our today FB live session, we are actually celebrating a special event in this month, which is Better Hearing and Speech Month. Basically, Better Hearing and Speech Month, the aim is actually to raise awareness about communication disorder and also to improve the quality of life for those who experience problems, speech and also hearing. So for today's live session, I'm not alone. We will have a special guest invited to join our session today. So let's welcome our special guest for today to share on our special topic, which is Can Children with Hearing Loss Talk? Okay, so introducing Mr. Shiro joining us for today's live session. Hi, Shiro.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
You already had your lunch?
Yes, I had. What about you?
Okay, good, great. I also already had it. Okay, so for today topic, which is we're going to discuss about can children with a hearing loss talk. But before that, let me introduce Mr. Shiro first. Mr. Shiro is actually a speech language therapist, graduated from University Kebangsaan Malaysia, UKM, and she also certified listening and spoken language specialist, certified auditory verbal therapist, as accredited by AG Bell Academy US. Mishiro also worked in Institute Hears, UKM, from 2015 until 2019 and had been a member of UKM cochlear implant team. So Shiro, before we jump into our topic discussion today, which is can children with a hearing loss talk, perhaps maybe we can expose a bit to parents maybe who are joining us for today's live session on how actually they can detect that how actually they can detect for the normal early childhood development for their children. Maybe you can share with us for today. Start with it first.
Sure. Can we put on the visuals?
Yep.
Okay, I guess to know the language development milestone, I think it will all stem out from how children learn in the early age or early stage of their life.
Mm-hmm.
It is essentially about brain development. Children learn not just talking, but they learn about everything in their environment, in their world, through receiving information from their sensory organs. So from the sound that they hear, the food that they taste, the odor that they smell, things that they touch, and the lights, color, the things that they see in the world. All this information was sent to a baby's brain, and the brain is essentially the most important organ in helping the child to make sense of the world. So they learn through interaction, interacting with not just the people around them, but also with the things that surrounds them. So moving on, for parents to know if their child is, developing appropriately. Most of the time, it's not uncommon when parents would, tell us, I don't know if my child is progressing well. They seems to be developing normally in every other aspects, but they just doesn't seem to talk a lot yet. And some people say it's okay to wait because they're still young. I can wait until 2 years old before I bring my child to see a doctor.
Usually, everybody will say that it's okay, it's fine, it's the stage is fine because we need to wait some more for the progression, right? But how long that should actually parents should wait until at what point actually?
That's a very good question. So this is the essentially the first part that we're going to cover today. So it's important to know children develop at their own pace, but it is only true to a certain extent because there is certain milestone that a child need to reach at specific age. And if they don't, this should become a cause of concern and action should be taken immediately.
Okay.
So
your
in the
next
following slide,
information would be a normal milestone highlighted and also things that maybe parents need to pay attention a bit. What's the red flag that Shiro gonna highlight for today after this? Okay.
Okay. So starting from birth to 3 months old, even though baby, newborn, they can't really talk or they can't even, see very well, but they would show certain behavior that reflect on their awareness of what's happening in their surroundings. For example, they get startled or they cry to a sudden very loud sound. Especially sound that is novel to them, sounds that they do not know where does it come from. If they first exposed to like a dog barking next to them, they may get startled. But once they get used to it, they become familiar to the sound. They know what the sound means and that sound is not going to cause them any harm. They become familiarized to it. So you see the changes. They also soothed by the mother's voice a lot more easier compared to the voice of the other adults. Because they begin to hear even in the mummy's womb. So the mother's voice naturally becomes the most familiar sound to a baby. And they also begins to look at the moving objects in front of them, essentially the adult when we speak to them. And they also make cooing sound, sound that is, you can feel that it is something that is produced at the throat. And it's very short and very flat. So it sounds like ooh or ah. One of my mentors, Dr. Basha, has a very interesting way of describing cooing by, newborn baby. So she says, cooing sound, it's almost similar to bunyi engine, nak start tapi tak dapat.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. That's interesting. That's how
And that's
how actually you
essentially-
can describe it actually, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and there's no way an adult can trying to replicate the cooing sound.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the behavior, some of the main behavior that we'll observe in, from birth to 3 months old baby.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So that's actually the early stage, which is
Yeah.
first sounds that your baby can make is actually cooing. So perhaps maybe you can pay attention. Parents can pay attention at that point actually when they're throughout the growth stage.
Yeah, and one
right?
more thing to add on is to
Mhm.
really observe child's response to sound in
Mhm.
the environment. Do they startle? Do they cry to sudden loud sounds, especially Masa Raya when you hear a lot of fireworks or
Right. Right.
monsoon season, there's a lot of
Mhm.
thunders. Is your baby, like a very good baby, they can sleep through the night, bunyi kuat macam mana pun, they're all right. So
Correct.
those are things that parents can begin to observe in newborn babies.
Yeah, since this stage of age, they can't express yet what they're able to hear, but usually we will see the reaction, what their reactions towards it. Most likely, it's actually loud sounds, right?
You're right.
Okay. So,
And then moving on,
hmm,
from 3 to 6 months, oh yeah, you're probably hearing it now. It's okay, just play it.
okay. So, ready? This is the sound.
Yeah.
Good, cute, very cute.
It's so cute. So you can hear
Yeah.
a lot of amplitude change, vowel
Right.
changes. So there is baby begins to explore different sounds that they're able to make, not just a flat one. You hear squealing, sometimes they're growling, yelling, and even begin to blow raspberries, usually by 5 to 6 months of age. So the one that you are hearing now is the expansion or the vocalization by a 3-month-old baby in the picture. So they begin to experiment by putting some consonants and vowel together. You will also see how their mouth movement changes as they're trying to explore sounds that they're able to make. So from you will see, they're making a lot more movement to wah or wah. Yeah.
And I think
So
at this
that's
stage of
the main
age,
changes.
and I think at this stage of age also they always like parents usually facing an issue with the drooling, right? Is it? And I
When
think
they're
this is
trying
a
to
good,
mouthing a lot, you're right.
but that's a good thing when they start to exploring what it's actually they can do with the mouth and produce the sound itself, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So
Moving on.
yeah.
From after exploring different way of making sounds, they get more and more motivated to explore even more. So from 7 to 10 months time, baby will begin to be more advanced in terms of the sound that they're able to make, from the kind of squealing, yelling, growling sound to what we call canonical babbling and variegated babbling. So babbling sometimes was referred to sounds that adult cannot make sense of, and sounds that baby will usually do, but we're going to be a bit more specific in the type of babbling that a child would do.
Yeah.
So canonical babbling is a string of the same syllable sound. So it can be like pa 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 pa, ga 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 ga, da 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 da, as in the audio that Nasrien is going to play now. So a string of the same sound, it starts from ga 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 to da 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 and then to mama mama, and you can also hear the amplitude change and the pitch changes as the child is trying to babble. So it's no longer just vowel like, but it has consonant and vowel combination.
Yeah.
And
Is
after
it
exploring,
is it for the canonical babbling, the most common one? Maybe you can notice it with the mama or baba first. Which one is more easier really for kids, for baby produce it?
I don't think there is a
Specific.
definite description for that, like which one will come first. But my personal observation, a lot of kids make ba 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 first.
That's why.
That is my
Mama,
personal
that's
observation.
that's why mommy always jealous first.
I'm not sure how true is that, but I think in my observation, ba 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 usually comes first, but mama would follow very soon.
Okay.
Yeah, and it doesn't limit to only B and M. You can hear ga ga
Yeah.
ga or da da da. So essentially, is consonant vowel combination a string of the same sound. So they're practicing a more advanced version of vocalization, and right before they are beginning to say their first word, they make a combination of different syllables. So from a string of same sound, now they have a string of different sounds, which we call variegated babbling, but you totally can't make sense of it. It's their language. Nasrien is going to put it up for us.
Okay. This is how variegated babbling sounds.
Oh, weren't you asleep though? That is a long trip. Didn't Daddy help you? Oh, was just for a little while?
Okay, I think we can stop now.
It's very
So cute, right?
Yeah. It's like sounds like the baby having a conversation with the parent, with the dad, right? But how on the side of parent itself, how they want to respond? I believe that at this stage when the child is babbling that
When you are listening to this audio, you can certainly hear how the adults respond to that variegated babbling, or we call bahasa German or jargon.
Yeah.
Indulge in that cuteness at this stage because it will only happen for that period of time. Just respond to them in normal spoken language. If you know what the child is trying to tell you, translate their jargon or translate their variegated babbling, because they're trying to narrate an event or a story to you, but they wasn't really sure, what are the exact words or sentence to use. So this is only normal before 12 months old. If a child do a lot of variegated babbling or jargon at the age of 1 year old and 1.5 years old or 2 years old, that is a red flag. So this should happen before a child speaks their first word. So if the child still, do a lot of jargon at 1.5 years old, it is a sign of language delay that needs to be addressed immediately.
Okay.
Yep. And moving on, after a series of jargons and all that, they begin to speak their first word. They will usually speak at least 1 or 2 words at 1 year old. And they also have better sound localization. They know where there's a sound coming from. Mommy called them from behind or from the kitchen. They will be able to figure out the direction of the sounds. They should understand some words that is related to their common activities, things that they do at home. Drink milk, go out, sleep, mandi, makan, simpan toys.
Recognize their own name, right?
Yeah, and people around them, papa, mama, if they're living with atuk, nenek. And by 1.5 years old, they should use at least 20 words expressively, 20 single words. So again, words that they will always use, they will always see: milk, papa, mama, Simple prepositions like up and down, social words, hi, bye bye, thank you. And at that point of time, their speech usually is not very intelligible. It's only about 25% intelligible, which means people who are really close to them can understand them. The people who are not so close to them may have difficulty interpreting what they're trying to tell. So if a child doesn't doesn't use around 20 words by 1.5 years old, red flag, needs to be addressed immediately.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. So I have a question regarding this one. Maybe parents out there also want to know what is the best. I mean, like maybe you can suggest a few, 1 or 2, 3 types of toys or maybe interaction tools that parents can use to build up this at least 20 words by the age of 1.5 years for their child.
I would always say for babies or for very young child, the best toy is the adult, is the human. If you show baby a toy and you in front of them, they will usually look at the adult. They crave for that adult human faces. They want that interaction. And they learn through interaction. They don't learn with toys. Even if you have a toy, you have to interact with them with the toys.
Correct.
And again, if we look at the things or the early words that they will pick up are usually things that they do. Like mandi, minum, tidur, come, walk, throw, people that they see. So if you can be present for your child, interact with them, and that is the best way to build their vocabulary.
Okay, that's interesting actually, because after all, when we communicate with the child itself, we are showing the whole, I would say the whole points, which is not just the things, but we include it with the emotion, we include with the intonation and everything, so it makes it more interesting for them, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so we move to the
Yeah, and then by 2 years old, they begin to understand more and more words. They should have at least 200 words that they can understand, and they should be able to say at least 50 different words. And by 2 years old, simple rules. 1 year old, single word. 2 years old, they should put at least 2 to 3 words together. So they should be able to understand and respond to simple questions. They should also be able to use simple questions like where daddy, nak susu, tak nak main. And with more practice of speaking, their speech will become more and more intelligible. So by 2 years old, about 50%, 60% of the speech is intelligible to people around them. You will find it easier and easier to understand their speech.
When you talk about speech is about 66% intelligible, that maybe the kids will know how to use a simple question like nak cucu. They will pronounce it nak cucu. But how parents side they need to react to that questions when the child say that nak cucu.
First, you have to be sure that every time when the child says chuchu means the child is trying to tell you one susu, but it's just the production of the consonants that is not accurate. Some parents like to, naturally you would imitate the cute way of saying chuchu, not chuchu, which is not wrong. But what is better is use or model the clear speech instead of repeating the cute way of saying it. So it's not wrong, but you are more encouraged to demonstrate or to model the clear speech to your child.
Okay, that's interesting. And basically, the ability of the child to put 2 to 3 words together is the main indicator for 2 years old. And when they can't produce it, a red flag for parents, right? To seek
Yeah.
for another, to seek for a,
Yeah.
for a help, right?
Yes.
Mm.
And I noticed there's a questions in the comment section that it says if 2 years old still produce variegated babbling, and at the same time he has some meaningful words as well. I think this is a very important point to address in 2 years old. When they are beginning to join words together, there's a lot of process that is happening in their mind. So they're trying to think of the words to use. They're trying to think of the arrangement of the words in a sentence and how to string the words together in a sequence that is grammatically appropriate. And when the sentence or the message that is intended to be conveyed by the child, it's longer than 2 to 3 words. You will notice they sometimes mix with a bit of a jargon as a trying to tell you a long story. So you will hear some intelligible words, but they're also mixed with some jargon. That is appropriate. That is appropriate development. But parents are encouraged to translate it or to rephrase it to the child whenever possible. If you're able to guess, what is the complete message that your child is trying to tell, just model it to your child. Just say it for your child.
Okay. Can you give us one example, maybe?
So, for example, when we're playing, I have a child, 2 years old, 2 year 5 months. So we're playing with ambulance and a car. So we're trying to create like a accident, and then the car crashed, and then he says, "But now the ambulance die already." So I can't really replicate or simulate the jargon, but you will hear some variegated jargon, and then you say ambulance die already. So you know the child is trying to say something happened and then something died. Yeah. So that is one of the examples that I can think of.
And then for parents, they can just like rephrase anything based on that particular event,
That's
right?
context.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I think we have another question. You want to move with the next information presentation, or you want to answer the question which
I
how
think
to
we can
know?
address.
Okay, how to know? This question is from Imtinan Saifullah. The question is how to know either the child is a late talker or speech delay. 2 years old, 4 months, but still only can say a few words.
So a late talker or speech delay, I think it basically refers to the same thing. You don't speak at the right. You don't speak like how you should be at that specific age. So 2 year 4 months, but can only say a few words. I will need to be very specific about how many words does a few words mean. It can be 20 words, it can be 5 words, it can be 200 words, I don't know. So when you have concern that your child 2 year 4 months unable to string 2 to 3 words together, get an assessment. Yeah, get an assessment by a speech therapist.
Okay. So take the safe precaution first. Okay. So next we move with the milestone for the 3 years old speech language.
So you will then begins to notice when you speak to 3 years old, you no longer need to use short sentence. So you're able to say longer sentence to them. Take your pillow and then bring it to mommy, or sentence like makan dulu kalau tak boleh main. Kena bagi phone dulu kalau tak boleh. So you will be able to use this kind of sentence with a 3 years old. You don't have to split it out. They're able to process longer sentence, then they're also ready to put 3 to 4 words together, string longer words, string more words together to talk about things and to ask questions.
Have you met any patient who are able can understand the instruction from the parents? They can perform it when the parents say any instruction, but the thing is they have a problem in producing words. Is that considered as a red flag too?
Definitely, if a child at 3 years old seems to be
Mhm.
able to follow like two parts information, long instructions, but weren't able to put 3 to 4 words together,
Mm-hmm.
I would look into it and need to find out what is the cause of the expressive language delay. So when we talk about language, we have to look into understanding how much a child can process, expressive, how many words a child can say, or how long is a sentence that a child is able to construct, as well as speech. How clear is the production of individual sound? And then there is also other aspects like pragmatic social communication. Is a child able to take part in a conversation? Is a child able to interact with people appropriately, make friends, aware that who are they talking to, and change the way that they interact with people. They can't talk to their teacher like how they talk to their parents.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different aspects that need to be assessed when we have a child like what you have described, it being able to follow instructions but weren't able to string words together.
Okay.
And then by 4 years old, their speech should be, fully intelligible, if not 100%, about 90% intelligible. They should also be able to narrate some short stories or things that happen in life. Like, for example, ask them what happened in school, what do you eat in school, who's your best friend, and able to hold short conversation with others.
So we believe that at this age they are able to pronounce the words correctly, and there's very less of not pronouncing it incorrectly. Like maybe like just now I said like tutu is not so common among 4 years old to pronounce that type of words, right?
Yes. Yes. So by 4 years old, if you still find it difficult to understand your child's speech, definitely a red flag.
Okay. So we have one question from our audience in the comment section. So the question is from Diana Chiazi. The question is, how about if my son at 3 years currently can produce 3 words in one sentence, which is complete sentence, but I noticed that lack of vocab. Is there any tips or recommendation from you?
The only thing that I can think of, like one of the example when you say can produce 3 words in a sentence but lack of vocab, I would assume that you probably practicing words like saya or adik nak main, adik nak makan, adik nak susu. If that is the case, that your child seems to be able to string 3 words but only to certain specific sentence structure, then that is definitely a lack of vocab, and that is not a true reflective of 3 words sentences, because child seems to just memorizing the structure of the sentence. So the first tip would be exposing your child to a lot of vocabulary, not just labeling nouns, this one. For example, if your child says I want, saya nak makan, adults should always feedback with different vocabulary. Sorry, tiba-tiba pula. So how you can feedback with different vocabulary? Oh, nak makan cake, or nak makan cake chocolate. Nak makan cake chocolate yang
more
besar.
the sentences for them, right? We help them to expand more.
Yeah. Feedback with different vocab that is related to what the child is saying. So the child has opportunity to be exposed or to receive words from different category. Yeah, that is my top tips.
Okay, interesting. But is like reading a books to them, is this with this problem that the audience asking, Can it be solved also by the reading a storybook before bedtime? Is it one of the way also that can expand their vocab also?
Yes, yes, that is one of my favorite activity. Reading books to your child is one of the best way ever to increase their vocabulary. But beware, a lot of parents tend to expect their child to point to the picture and labeling, or expect the child to say or give response in reading books, and that resulting in a lack of interest in books. So when we talk about reading aloud or read books to your child, read book with your child, it's not your child reading the book. It's you read the book, or you as an adult share book with your child, that will begins to instill an interest, and they, when they develop a habit in reading books, and that's how they will begin to narrate or to share a book or interact with you through a book. So to start off, especially a very young kid with language delay, read book to them. Talk about what's in the picture. Do not expect them to repeat you all the time. Just expose them to a lot of vocabulary. Yes.
What's your suggestion is the best age to start this activity actually?
You can start as young as 3 months old. You can just carry them on your lap and then just open the book in front of them, read to them. You don't have to stay at one page for long, but probably for very young babies, you have to choose books with very simple images, with bright colors. So just
Something that
expose
they
them
can
to books
touch
from
also.
a very
they
young
can
age.
feel.
Yeah.
Okay. So interesting tips and recommendation from you.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Should we move on?
Yeah, we can move on to the next one. Okay,
So it's your
this
turn to
one.
talk about
Yeah.
language, because we know language, learning to speak, spoken language is primarily an acoustic event. You need to hear in order to speak. If you can't hear sound, you can't speak.
Correct.
So you need to explain to us what is hearing, what's the type of
True.
hearing loss, what's the level of hearing loss.
Sure, you are correct. Because in order for a child to develop a normal speech development, they need to have actually, parents need to know your child need to have a normal hearing level. So basically, but how exactly we as a parent can know that my child is actually having a normal hearing, and how do we confirm it? So before I share with guys about the hearing tests that are available, let me introduce you a bit. Let me introduce you a bit about the hearing level, because hearing level we do have a 5 degree level of hearing, which is starting with the normal hearing. As you can see here, that I share here, this is known as a audiogram, or a simple say that a chart where the audiologist actually can plot the points of a response when we perform any hearing assessment or hearing test to your children, or also applicable to adult. Okay, so in this audiogram, you can see that on the right side, there is a stated here the range of hearing loss. So basically, we have 5 level of hearing loss, level of hearing degree of hearing level, which is started with the normal hearing. Normal hearing usually the standard one is the standard level started with 0 until 20. Okay, the second one is a mild level, which is started from 25 until 40, and then a moderate 45 until 65, then severe hearing level 70 until 80, and also profound 90 until 100. So you can see here on the left side, here is the degree increasing number is indicating for the increasing of the hearing level, which is more on in terms of the loudness. So we are looking when we perform a hearing test, we are looking for the result to be within 0 until 20 to indicate that that child is actually having a normal hearing. Okay. Okay. So um, that is actually basically about the level of hearing. Okay. And as you can see here also, you can see that the rustling leaf and then water dripping. These all is the categorization in audiogram itself. We can categorize the type of sounds that you can found, which is whether that one is a soft sound, because surround your child is just not input about a speech sound, but they also can hear any environment sound that presents around them. So we need to make sure also that type of sound they hear, whether they can be able to hear the soft sound, medium sound or loud sound. So usually like
So-
Shiro said,
Are you saying that if a child has severe, profound hearing loss, then the child will only be able to hear the sound of the truck, the floor driller, the ground driller, the drum, the aeroplane taking off. So those are the only sound that a child with severe, profound hearing loss will be able to hear.
severe profound hearing loss. So basically, so it will be started with 70 until 120. That's the range of a hearing level that they're able to hear. So anything that below than that, they might not hear it. They don't hear it.
Below, as in
Yeah, below than 70, so they can't hear it because it's not loud enough for them to be able to hear it. And this is why it is important for parents to keep on maintaining knowing that your child having a normal hearing throughout their growth development, because any disruption, any problem with their hearing level that can contribute to the hearing loss, so that one can affect also their speech development. And that's why we can see that some kids having a speech delay and cannot catch up exactly what they are supposed to achieve to do at their stage of age. Okay, Shiro, perhaps maybe you can share with us a bit. Why is it important? What's the relation exactly between hearing and also producing a speech words? Maybe you can share.
Well,
with us
if you are looking at me now
Mhm.
and you are not hearing me,
Mhm.
so you're able to see me, but you are not able to hear the sound that I'm making, you will have a hard time trying to figure out what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, correct.
So that essentially summarizes or representing how this hearing loss would affect speech and language development. But I want to be a bit more specific on this. In the first slide, we talk about child development is essentially a brain that is growing the neural connections as it receives all the stimulations from the surrounding. So to grow the auditory part, the auditory cortex of the brain needs to receive sound stimulation. So sound, the doorway for sound to enter the auditory cortex of the brain is the ear. Just like to grow the visual cortex of the brain, it needs light. So your eyes is the doorway for light to enter your brain. To understand about smells, to grow the olfactory cortex in the brain, you need your nose. Your nose is the doorway. So when you have a hearing loss, It merely means the doorway for sound to enter the brain is blocked. And depending on the level of hearing loss, if it's mild hearing loss, it's probably 10% or 20% blocked. So there's only a limited amount of sound that is allowed to enter the brain. When you have a complete hearing loss, so the doorway is completely blocked. There's no way a sound can enter your brain. So your brain doesn't grow. The auditory part of your brain doesn't have any stimulation in order for the neural connection to take place. So when a brain doesn't have information about sound, you don't understand anything about sound.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next slide, we're going to watch and listen to a simulation video by Pusat Hears in UKM. So we'll first look at the first part wherein it shows us the normal hearing conversation.
Hi Mimi, what are you doing?
I am planting flowers. I want to make a small garden.
Where do you get the flower from?
I bought it in a nursery.
Oh, I also want to have a small garden, but now I don't have my own house yet.
Be patient, one day you will have it.
Okay, so that's how we, as people with normal hearing, will be able to participate and overhear or listen to conversation. You're able to hear not just a speech, you also know there is bird chirping at the background. You understand fully what is being discussed in that conversation. Let's look at what does mild hearing loss means when the doorway is 10% or 20% blocked.
Hi Mimi, what are you doing?
I am planting flowers. I want to make a small garden.
Where do you get the flower from?
I bought it in a nursery.
Oh, I also want to have a small garden, but now I don't have my own house yet.
Be patient, one day you will have it.
Hi Mimi.
Okay, you're still able to hear something
Yeah, still able to hear, but very soft. For me, it's
and very muffled.
Yeah,
Very
correct.
muffled, and you feel the environmental sound, the bird chirping, whatever that's happening in the background is interfering to what you're trying to understand. And you probably can hear some words and also that intonation.
Correct.
So
I believe
that is
I believe even with the mild hearing loss, child with the mild hearing loss will be even more struggle in a noisy environment, right?
yes, without amplification. They probably will still be able to hear you when parents call them. They seems to be able to respond, seems to be able to understand instructions in a quiet environment, but they will struggle in noisy environment. And you won't be able to detect a hearing loss at that mild level without a
Correct.
proper hearing assessment.
Correct.
And moving on to moderate and severe hearing loss.
I am planting flowers. I want to make a small garden.
Where do you get the flower from?
I bought it.
Crank up your volume to the highest.
Yeah.
But now I don't have my own house yet.
Be patient, one day you will have it.
Hey, so when you have moderate severe hearing loss, your world basically becomes a lot more quiet. You don't hear the bird chirping anymore. You hear a very, very muffled conversation. You still hear the whoa, 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 but you can't make sense of any of the sound.
You just know there
So-
is a sound, but can't make it. What is it?
Yeah, so your brain is receiving very limited sound information. And what does it do to your child's language development? Is your child responding to a lot of noises or loud sounds in their environment, but very limited language understanding? Or
Okay.
they don't really respond to you when you call them by name. You have any questions, Nasrien?
Okay, I think we have one question from our audience here in our session today. So it's question from Tan Wani. The question is, if 3 years old child with severe hearing loss until now couldn't speak one words yet, do I need to send to a special school such like have EIP or SLP program, or just send to normal kindergarten? Which one is better?
Okay, a lot more information is needed in order to give a specific answer to that questions. First of all, severe hearing loss. Is it when did you diagnose severe hearing loss? Has the child fitted with hearing aid yet? When? And is the child properly fitted? As in, is the hearing aid optimally amplified, so that the child have good access to sound? And for how long that the child receives intervention? Is it because she just began to use hearing aid, therefore she couldn't speak single word yet? And if that is the answer, I think that is very appropriate development or expected progress, because it's still very new. So we need to have all those questions answered in order to give a suggestions on whether a child needs to be sent to a normal kindergarten or a child needs a special program. And if you do have a speech therapist working with you and your child, I think best to check with her.
Okay, so that's the suggestion for Tan Wani for your question. That's a suggestion. Okay, so we can move to the next part, which is the hearing test. As you can say just now, you just highlight about this question, right? How long already that child already be fitted with the amplification devices if already confirmed they are having hearing loss. So like I say just now, when you meet with the audiologist, we will perform the hearing test. So basically, there are two types of, we can categorize the hearing test that available for children in two types, which is first one will be a screening, and then the second one is a diagnostic test. So screening test, usually we can do it for the newborn. Okay, start at the age of newborn. Usually in Malaysia, we will perform a screening hearing test first for the newborn, which is have two tests, which is the first one. This is the left bottom picture is representing for the test. We call it automated acoustic emission. And also the second one, which is the right side, the right bottom picture, is we call it automated auditory brainstem response. So these two tests is actually categorized, can also be a diagnostic test, and also can also be a screening test for a newborn baby. So the purpose of a screening test is actually we just want to look whether this child, this newborn baby, okay, have a normal hearing or not, like can pass the screening test or not. That's the only thing, but we don't know about the hearing level, exactly hearing level yet. Okay, so if you want to figure out more, or usually if you want to get a faster result about the status of a hearing, we will go with the screening test first. And after that, if you want to find out more about the hearing level, meaning like exactly how normal it, when you say normal hearing, actually which point is actually normal hearing? Because remember just now I do mention that even the normal hearing, we do have a range between 0 until 20. So we want to test exactly at what frequency of sound, and then also what's the level actually. So that when we want to look for that result, we need to go with the diagnostic hearing test, where we have two types also. We have two categorization also, which is the first one is a subjective test, and also the second one is an objective test. So basically in subjective test, we have a distraction test, we have a visual reinforcement test, we have a play audiometry, and also the last one we have a pure tone audiometry. So basically, these 4 types of tests, we differentiate it according to the age of your child. And if your child have a normal hearing, this one is just a, we look at the age of a child, and then if your child have a normal hearing, supposedly they can perform all these tests and they can respond well towards during the test ongoing. Okay, and then the second test is an objective test. Also, objective test we use a OAE, or acoustic emission, the same one like this, like the same one like a for picture at the bottom, two picture at the bottom part. So it's the same one. And also the second one is a test we call auditory brainstem response. So basically for autoacoustic emission test and also auditory brainstem response test. So these 2 tests actually it can be done either in screening way or also in a diagnostic way. So for us, audiologists, we are more looking forward for subjective tests where child can respond not just by listening, and also they can also understand the how to perform the task throughout the hearing test, and that's we can access the whole ability of the child, whether it match their age or not.
So basically, you are saying that there are a lot of different options for hearing assessment in children. They're very, very young. They weren't able to give behavioral response, tell us, if they can hear certain sounds or not. They can just sleep. And then there are objective measurements that we will be able to know whether the child's brain is responding to sound stimulation or not. When they grow older, we'll be able to gain a lot more specific information from them.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, then after that, when we perform a hearing test, if you find out that your child having a normal hearing, normal hearing level, what usually audiologists will recommend is actually you can just come for the annual hearing checkup, annual hearing test, just to monitor your child hearing status. But if not, if the result came out with a hearing loss, so there is the part where audiologists will suggest parents to move to the next step, which is hearing rehabilitation. So usually hearing rehabilitation, you can the most one is actually we will recommend to parents the use of hearing amplification devices. So basically inside hearing amplification devices, there are so many range of devices such as hearing aids, cochlear implant, or bone conduction. So bone conductor. So that one is depending on the type of hearing loss that your child has, and also we also look forward on the needs actually for your child. So that one will be recommended based on the hearing test result that we perform to your child.
Okay. I think the next part is where I'm going to talk about some facts in pediatric hearing loss.
Yeah.
So we know in a lot of big hospitals in Malaysia, babies hearing will be screened before they were discharged from the hospital. So parents will be informed if the screening result is a pass or a fail. If it's a fail result, a baby should get a full hearing assessment before they turn 3 months old, and they should receive intervention before they are 6 months old. So that is the golden, the goal, the best practice. So 136, as early as possible. Screen hearing before 1 month old.
Yeah.
Get a full diagnosis before 3 months old. Get intervention before 6 months old, because that will give the baby with hearing loss the best chance to develop age-appropriate spoken language skills. So in Malaysia, we don't have universal newborn hearing screening. So newborn hearing screening is only available in some of the major hospitals in Malaysia. And the prevalence of baby born with hearing loss is about 3 out of 1,000 live births. So by significant hearing loss here, we're referring to the hearing level that is sufficient to create an impact on child language development. So which is usually moderate and above. So if you put this prevalence in the context of Malaysia with about 500,000 live births a year, I think this is based on 2019's statistics, we will have about 1,500 babies born with significant hearing loss. And even though we know a lot of hearing, we always think that hearing loss is related to genetic heredity. But 90% of children with hearing loss are actually born to hearing parents.
Oh, that's
With
a
no
high
family
percentage.
history. Yes, very, very high percentage. In fact, about 90% of my caseload, I see only children with hearing loss, and about 90% of them are born to hearing parents with no family history of hearing loss. So this diagnosis would usually caught the family off guard. And as I said earlier, 136 rule, start intervention as early as possible because it gives the child with the best chance to develop good spoken language.
And that's why it's important to have an annual hearing monitoring, even though at this first stage, your newborn baby, having a past screening result. Okay, so that's why it's important to maintaining the annual hearing monitoring too.
Yep. And also check out with some of the red flags or the key development milestones at different age. So you will be able to intervene at that point whenever you see a red flags in child development. Yeah.
Okay, so we have one question from our Facebook comment section. It's from Zati Hulwani. Okay, the question is, my child have 80 dB for her both ear. Is she needs to implant or is just wearing hearing aid? She is 3 years, 5 months old now. I think that question is for me. Okay, so basically for 80 dB hearing level, so I can conclude maybe from this one, we can say that the hearing level around severe level, but we need to know also what's have your child ever tried any hearing aids before? So for me, it's the best. Maybe you can inbox our page so we can contact you to know more about the information of what has been done for your child after you find out about the hearing loss. So maybe we can suggest from there. Okay. Hati Hulwani, maybe Zati Hulwani. So maybe we can have our customer care letter to contact you to know more about the information for your child. Okay, then we can help
I
from
think
there.
I can give a bit of my input here if she's looking for more general recommendations.
Okay.
So whether a child needs an implant or a hearing aid, it all depends on how much benefit that the child can get from the current device that she's getting. If the child is using hearing aid, is the hearing aid optimally amplified? Dah fully amplified ke belum in order to give her the best access to sound? If the hearing aid is already amplified, optimally set to her hearing level, and more assessment is needed in order to find out if your child is hearing all the speech sounds that your child is supposed to hear in order to develop speech. If not, then implant is warranted. So like what Nasrien said earlier, a lot of follow-up and close assessment is needed. Plus your child is 3 years, 5 months, need to speed up. Because without a hearing aid, 80 decibel of hearing level, severe hearing level, she probably don't hear any speech without a hearing aid. And she has not been hearing sound for 3 years at least now. Yeah. So a lot of assessment needs to be done in order to answer your question. And essentially, it's about whether the device is helping your child to hear a full spectrum of sound that she's supposed to hear in order to develop speech.
Mm-mm.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we move for the next one. Okay.
Mm.
So now we came. Yeah.
So we're just answering the questions from our topic. Can a child
Mhm.
with hearing loss talk?
Mm.
Can, provided if this equation is being met.
Mm-hmm.
Adequate access to sound. By adequate, we mean good access to sound, sufficient
Mhm.
access to sound. By
Yeah.
being able to just hear sound at moderate, mild, or severe level is insufficient.
Mm.
When a child is able to hear good, full spectrum of sound, child need to bathe in a rich language environment because the brain needs stimulation to grow and to make the neural connection in order for us to develop an auditory brain. For a child to make sense of the sound, remembers the sound, the meanings, and then only able to use it for communication. So without one of these, adequate access to sound and rich auditory experiences, a child with hearing loss will not be able to talk well. Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe Nasrien can tell us a bit more about what does adequate access to sound means.
Yeah. So, remember just now I talked about when we find out about when our audiologists find out about your child having hearing loss. So we will move forward to the next step, which is a hearing rehabilitation by providing the amplification devices. So at this point, it's actually like she was saying, based on maybe we can use the example from question from Kwanzati Hulwani. She asking, right? She's her child. She asking whether going for implant or hearing aids. Like Shiro saying, she will recommend to her. We need to know also the status whether if your child already and fitted with the amplification devices, is it she or he uh, have an adequate access to the sound. Okay, so as you can see here on the right side, there is an audiogram, same figure, same picture, audiogram of a sound. But what I want to highlight here is actually about a speech banana. So where is the speech banana? If you can see the yellow region here, okay, it looks like a banana, right? So this region, we call the speech banana. So what is basically speech banana? It is actually inside here lies the most sound of average conversational speech. So this explains why when the hearing level of your child, that for example you will have your child having a moderate or severe loss, moderate to severe loss. So when your child having a moderate to severe loss, they unable to hear the speech uh, clearly. Meaning like, okay, for example, like what we listened throughout the video just now, it sounds like there is a sound, but I can't make it what's the sound. So because of the hearing loss is already out from the region from the region of a speech banana, they are unable to listen it well. So by providing it, by fitting with the amplification devices, it can help the child to slowly detecting and then listening again to the sound or speech sound, especially when the application is adequate enough, providing the amplification, they can hear, they can access the sounds within the speech banana region. And what's the most important when we say it's just not we are looking we just not want to make sure that they are able to hear the speech sound within the banana area. We also want to make sure then we want to make sure that they hear the sound optimally. Where the left chart here, you can see the green color at the top one. So that one we call it a spring bean. So when we perform the hearing test, we perform the assessment after the hearing loss children fitted with the amplification devices. We are not just looking the result to be within the speech banana region, but we are also more emphasizing to look forward the result to be in the region of a spring bean, where this is indicating that the child having an access to the optimum sound surround them.
Yeah, so no longer speech banana, but we want it to be at the upper border of the speech banana. So we want to make sure that the child is able to hear the full spectrum of speech sounds and is also able to listen to soft speech.
Yeah, correct.
So that's the first rule. Make sure that your child have adequate access to sound, really good access to sound. And
So how about the enrich?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, my turn to describe more on that. So when we are able to remember the doorway that is blocked, when it's unblocked through the use of a hearing device. So sound are now able to enter through the doorway to the auditory part of the brain, and the brain has to organize itself around the auditory signals that it receives. So from being able to hear the sound to responding or analyzing the sound information actively, which we call listening. So hearing and listening are two different things. Hearing is you detecting a sound. You hear it, you may not process it, you may not remember it.
Correct.
And listening is when you actively listen, you're attentively trying to understand and remember information, and your brain is trying to remember the sound or the words that you hear. So there's a lot of process, a long process before your child will be able to talk once they're able to hear well. So first they start from detecting the sound around them without really understanding what does the sound means. Then they slowly discriminate the sound. So they know when you're using a happy voice or an angry voice. They know the sounds are different, they mean different things. Identification means the child knows as the animal cat or dog as in the animal anjing. And comprehension means the child is able to remember the sound and is able to produce the sound to communicate with you. And all this happens in the brain, not at the ear level. We have unblocked the doorway, and enriched auditory experiences is where parents always provide language to a child in a meaningful context. Talk to your child, interact with your child. So the brain is constantly exposed to a lot of vocabulary within a meaningful context. I always stress on meaningful context. So meaningful context means you do not talk about something that is not related to what the child is doing. For example, if the child is drinking water and you want the child to learn pen, and you repeat pen, 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 pen. You repeat 100 times, but it's not meaningful to the child. It's not going to listen to it, not going to process it or remember it, because the child is merely hearing it but not listening to it. So when your child is drinking water, more appropriate or meaningful way of providing language is to talk about what your child is doing, what your child is experiencing, and what your child probably be feeling at that time when she's drinking water.
Okay.
So
Shiro, I think we can answer this one question from our audience, from Joyce Rasha. My son was diagnosed to moderate to severe and has worn hearing aid for 5 months now. He just babbles like mama, mama, and baba. How soon can I expect him to imitate what we say?
okay, again, a few more information that is needed. First, I would want to know what is the aided or the hearing level like with a hearing aid? Is the child
Mhm.
able to hear full spectrum of sound adequately?
Mhm.
And if you can say yes to that questions, then I would also want to know how much words that your child is able to understand
Mhm.
with 5 months of hearing age, hearing for 5 months. See beginning to understand more words without visual. So for example, when you say give to papa without point to papa, will the child be able to look at the direction of papa or pass thing on to papa? So that is understanding.
Yeah, they can
Because
differentiate.
remember, before the child is able to say, they need to have some level of understanding.
Mhm.
So look
Okay,
out for
so
that. Yeah.
I think that's the main point for parents who have a hearing loss children. I think it's two main point that Shiro highlight just now, which is first one would be adequate access to the sound, and also need combination with the enriched auditory experiences. Then we will have a result in the auditory brain development. Okay, so you need to make sure these two component, whether this is your child can access it fully enough or not. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
So I always come across questions from parents. How much
Yeah.
repetition
This is
or how
the
rich
most
is the
common
language
one.
that I need to give?
Mm-mm.
Well, there's no single answer to that question.
Mhm.
But what I can share with you is some of the statistics or data on how much is needed for someone to be really good at something. So Malcolm Gladwell says, in order for someone to be really, really good at a specific skills, it can be playing piano, it can be a sport, it can be spoken language. For you to be really good at something, you need 10,000 hours of practice just on that particular skills. Hart and Risley, in their research on children language development as well as academic achievements, they say children at 4 years old, normal hearing children, they should have heard about 45 million words. And
that's a lot.
that exposure is a predictor of future academic performance. So it simply means the more words that your child hear, the smarter they are going to be.
Yeah.
That is backed up by research. Dehaene says for child to be able to read well, they need 20,000 hours of listening as their foundation. And all these are based on children or people with normal hearing.
Normal hearing. Wow. That's a
When
lot.
children
That's a
with
lot
hearing loss,
number.
yes. So for children with hearing loss, they need 3 times more exposure to learn new words and concepts because of the narrow auditory bandwidth. So no single answer to that question, but the golden rule is you repeat in meaningful context until your child understands it. So you just repeat and repeat and repeat in a meaningful context.
Repetition is the key.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, and I'm also interested with your point just now when you say that the early intervention also is important, where you use the rule 1, 3, and 6, which is first month and 3 month and 6 month need to start if you suspect your baby having a hearing loss, and at this stage of a 6 month need to start the rehabilitation intervention and also intervention. So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, just because research extensively done, especially on developed countries where they have universal newborn hearing screening, where all babies born in their country will have their hearing assessed and intervene as early as possible. So they found out that children who receive intervention before they turn 6 months old, they begin to use hearing aid before they turn 6 months old, they're able to achieve similar spoken language that is at par with their normal hearing peers. In our local context, we don't get a lot of babies who get their hearing aid at 6 months old. But
Yeah.
we do see a lot of them who is able to achieve age-appropriate language skills. So I guess what is most important for us is the moment you notice your child has a hearing loss, do not wait. Intervene as soon as possible, because it will only give your child a better opportunity to develop listening and spoken language. Whereas children who begins intervention at older age will not have the same opportunity.
Yeah, correct. Early intervention, early action, fast result.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe Shiro want to share. You want to share the video of one of your patient itself. That's is actually the proof on a successful journey for a hearing loss child who already can able to just not talk, okay, but also be able to sing. Okay, so let's
Yeah.
watch the video.
Hold on. Let me just give some background of this girl. So
Yeah.
Geraldine, she
Geraldine, okay.
she is not a baby who receives implant at 6 months or hearing aids at 6 months old. She only the parents only detected a hearing problem at the age of 2 years plus, about 2 years old, and she received her implant at the age of 2 years 8 months. They travel bi-weekly from Johor to KL for therapy.
Wow.
And we make sure she has adequate access to sound. She only receives the first implant at 2 years 8 months, and then second implant at, I think, 3 years old plus. We make sure she has enriched auditory exposure, where parents, the mother and the grandmother, who are the main caregivers of the child, would attend the session and talk to her, interact with her on a daily basis. And I'm going to share with you now what is she able to do. That was recorded in, I think, 3 years ago.
Okay.
She's now probably 8 years old.
Wow. At the 3 years old, I'm quite impressed with this development. Okay, so let's watch this video.
Go, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy, next time I play. You have a know you, how much I love you. It's no baby, my sunshine.
So, how was her speech? Were you able to understand what she is singing, the lyrics?
Yeah, I can understand it.
And how's the pitch like?
Yeah. She can sing well, she can pronounce the pronunciation of each word correctly. That's so impressive actually. I believe that
And when
that's
she is singing, she is also able to monitor herself. And when I'm trying to remind her that she is a bit too fast, she looks at me and slow down and trying to match to my speed.
Yeah,
So if I
very
didn't tell you that she wears cochlear implant bilaterally, you wouldn't probably know that she has a hearing loss.
correct, yes.
So that is what we that is what we want for children with hearing loss, and we know that it's doable. It's something achievable.
Achievable,
if,
yes.
if we're able to start early.
Yes,
And we're
correct.
able to let more people know that do not wait. Whenever you see a red flag, start intervention, do something, get their
Correct.
hearing assessed.
Correct. And we can see also that I believe that with this result, it's just not one person role. Like, you know, like some parents think that, oh, if I just send my child to audiologist, they're able to hear that sound, then that's enough. No, actually it's a group, a team of people here, which is need to be included with the audiologists, need to be included with the speech language pathologists, and also what's the main important is actually the family members itself to support. Ye-
ENT
Parents,
surgeon,
yeah.
pediatrician.
Mm-hmm. So
It takes a village.
yes, correct. And this result is very impressive actually. It's very satisfying.
Yes, nothing more satisfying than this.
Correct. Okay. So comes to the end of our Facebook live session today. Shiro, do you have any last words for our audience today?
I hope today's sharing is beneficial, and if there's only one thing that you can remember and you can take home from this session today is
Mm-hmm.
early intervention. When you suspect a delay, do not wait.
Correct.
Give your child the intervention or the help that they need as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So for those maybe who has like any questions, any maybe that you are planning to bring your child for the hearing test or any speech assessment, you can contact us at 20dB, because in 20dB hearing we also just not providing the hearing assessment for adult and child. We also do provide a speech assessment and also speech therapy session for patients who are having a speech delay. Okay, so it can be done actually. Like I say, we need a team to to make sure that if your child are detected with a hearing loss, we need a team to make sure that they can catch up back to develop a normal speech. Okay, so
Yep.
that's all for today. I think that's all for today. I think I'm very glad we have you as our special guest today.
You're most
A
welcome.
very interesting topic that we discussed for today, and I believe that we giving a lots of information. We are sharing a lots of information to parents who are joining us today. Thank you, Shiro.
You're welcome. Bye
Thank you so
bye.
much. Bye. Stay safe.
Yeah.